Hi guys, welcome back to the Drive Life channel. In today's video we're going to be discussing a topic that's quite controversial in terms of fuel saving. We want to save a bit of money on fuel with the fuel crisis. So that is going to be, is it really that bad to coast in neutral, or when should you or when can you coast in neutral to save a little bit of fuel? Now, this is something I've been trying out and researching recently. Like I said, it's quite a controversial topic online. There's lots of various videos talking about different cars, and it's important to note that it varies from transmission to transmission. Obviously, you've got single clutch automatics, dual clutch automatics, or torque converters like this one, CVTs. So there's quite a few factors that you can't really cover all in one video. I'm going to be discussing the torque converter variant of these Volvos. Stuff like the power shift gearbox in Volvos aren't covered by this, but pretty much every other gearbox is. So why on earth would you want to go into neutral? Well, there's a few reasons why going into neutral could be a good thing. What it does is it eliminates any sort of engine braking. So whereas a lot of people use engine braking to slow down, for example, I'm going to do it now, just ease off the accelerator, there's a bit of retardation from the engine that slows you down, useful for if you're coming into speed limits, etc. But it's quite a handy way of getting rid of that. And what that means is that you can actually glide for far longer than you usually would be able to. So for example, we've got a 40-mile-an-hour zone here. If I knock it to neutral, suddenly you can feel the car is far more free and will roll. Now what you don't get is the ability to manage your speed unless you use the brakes. So whereas normally if I put it into drive here, the speed sort of holds around the speed limit, in neutral I'll just keep rolling off. So that's something to bear in mind. But that ability to glide, which I'll demonstrate shortly, could be really handy for saving fuel. Now, another reason might be to just give the gearbox, if your gearbox is overheating, which you really shouldn't be doing, and if it is, then you need to have that looked at. But shifting into neutral and disengaging the transmission from the engine can give the gearbox a chance to cool. That's another reason why you would do it. But to be honest, the only main reason is for that ability to just glide. Now, you need to be careful about doing this. There's quite a few people say it's illegal. It's not technically illegal, provided you do have proper control of your vehicle at all times. A lot of people say that, well, you might need to accelerate out of an issue, but I think that just comes down to more planning. You just need to use your noggin when it comes to when you're going to use this. I've never, to be honest, found an issue, except for if I'm already going too fast into a bend where I need to use the accelerator to get me out of it. There's been, not really anything that's ever been a situation where I need to do that. But say, for example, someone's going to crash into the back of you, sat in neutral. If you're in drive, you could quickly move out of the way. I don't know, that's an example I can think of. But here's going to be my example of where coasting in neutral is really going to help. So we're just coming up to a crest of a hill here, and I know we've got about a mile where I can actually coast in neutral. So I'm going to 55 miles an hour now, pop it into neutral as we crest the hill, and we're going to let the undulations of the road take us. Now you'll see here that we're showing 99.99 miles per gallon, 99.9, and we're just easing around the bends. Now what's happening here is we've got a series of hills and then downhills. So we're now slowing down to 45, which is the ideal speed for this bend. I might actually just dab on a bit of brakes here, just to make it a bit more comfortable, and then we're going to ease it round. And as we drop down the hill here into this bend, our speed is going to stay maintained, and we're again at the right speed for the bend. Now you'll notice that we're currently at, again, 99.9 mpg, so I haven't used any fuel for the past 300-400 meters, and that's going to continue. This is all downhill again. We're at 30 miles an hour. Once we get into this next bend, you'll see we're now at 35 miles an hour, The recommended speed for this bend is 25. So you can see here how this is a reasonable place to do sort of cruise into neutral. I'm braking into this bend here, letting off. We're just going to let our momentum of the car carry us. Now, quite a few people get concerned about shifting the car back into drive when you're finished coasting, for example. It just comes around here, and that is something that you need to do it right, otherwise it can cause excess wear or unnecessary wear on your transmission. So here, look, we're grinding to a halt. We're at 20 miles an hour now. We could, if we really wanted to, roll on. There's another downward bit here. I've got no one behind me, but I'm on my way to work. I don't want to be late. Actually, look, I'll just give it a little boost. Here. So a brief second there, we're at 30 mpg, and now we're back up to 99.9. We're going to coast down, and you'll see that we'll be soon back up to the speed limit, just coasting. So when you change into drive again, I think what you need to understand is that this gearbox is designed to give smooth shifts. So when you switch into drive, a lot of people say you're slamming back into the gears, but you're not. The car has disconnected the gearbox, and it will stay disconnected until it's selected the appropriate time to shift into the gear. So here we are at 55 miles an hour. We're going to shift it into drive here, and the car, a bit like a downshift really, has just shut up to 1500 RPM, like you would if you were changing down a gear manually anyway. Now what I didn't do was have my foot on the throttle at that time, because that can cause premature wear, which probably isn't ideal on a gearbox. But if you just let the car, give the car time, pull it into drive, and just let it select where it wants to be. The gearbox is clever enough where it knows the sort of appropriate gear to be in. It's not like if you're in fourth and you put it into neutral and you're doing much faster, you should be going to thick, it won't automatically then go back into fourth. The car knows the appropriate gear for the occasion. So another thing you need to consider as well is the torque converter temperature. Now this is the reason why you can't just tow an automatic car in neutral. A lot of people do it. For example, these front wheel drive Volvos, you need to get a front lift. The rear wheels are okay because they're not driven. However, when you're in neutral, the wheels are still attached to one side of the torque converter. But what that can do is actually overheat the torque converter, because if you're in neutral and say you have the engine running or something, the coolant isn't being passed around that part of the torque converter, and it can overheat, which obviously could be quite expensive for a new torque converter. So bear that in mind as well. Now there are occasions where coasting in gear is perfectly good too. Now these Volvos do have sort of, I would say, a secret mode. It's not really a secret mode, but they can identify when they're coasting, and they can drop the revs. Now it happens after probably, I'd say, 200 meters of coasting. They will suddenly, you'll see it, or you'll hear it actually, the revs will die down slightly, the car will feel freer. It's a bit like a half neutral, I like to call it, and that makes a difference as well in fuel economy. So in terms of when you should drive into neutral or put it in neutral to coast, I think there's a very fine line, refined set of parameters. If you're going to go over multiple little rises and dips, and you know that there's no one behind you, you're not going to slow anybody up, then I go for it. Like there, for example, that is a very, very easy place to do it. It's always designed for it, and we covered just over a mile without using only enough fuel to idle, which is interesting. Now, for those of you who are going to say, well, you know, cars cut off fuel to the engine anyway when they're coasting gear, that is true. as long as the car's over 1200 RPM, the car will cut off fuel to the engine. But what you still get is that engine braking effect, which means that you'll then have to accelerate again, and the gains, that's why you need to be doing multiple undulations for it to actually be a benefit. Otherwise, just coasting like this, we're using zero fuel. We're just going to roll into the 30 zone just up ahead. So I'm employing these two techniques. I've probably increased my fuel economy by 4 or 5. I went on a, those of you that haven't seen the video, or I went on a track day, and there's a video coming soon, and that's decimated my fuel economy, but it's showing 41.8 here, which isn't too bad for the car of this size. For the track day, it was showing 46, so that gives you an idea of how much fuel you use on the track day. But yeah, it's a useful technique when used in the right way. In terms of damage to your car, these cars are fairly idiot-proof in the fact that they'll protect themselves, but it's all about that mechanical sympathy. If you want your car to last longer, just bear that in mind, be gentle with her, and most of all, just enjoy driving it. So yeah, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Give your opinions on this as well. Have you ever done it? Do you do it? In a manual car, obviously it's far easier, because you just don't put it into a gear. But yeah, I'll be interested to know if any of you Volvo drivers out there do it, or if you're a smart driver as well, or any other person who watches the channel, let me know if you do this in your car, and I'll see you in this video. Cheers!